Grand Rising, and welcome to another segment of CLG View Point. I'm Cindy Lorraine Grais, and it's an absolute honor to have you here today. Well, today is Monday, April the 7th, 2025. And in the Kingdom of Canada, under natural law, it is Divina Vita, Divine Life 7, year 0035. That's day 7, year 0035. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. It sure went quickly. We got to work out in the garden. It was a lot of fun. And now we're on to the segment. And today we're going to be covering installing a Rain Barrel Diverter Kit. And international news, ICC chief prosecutor accused of punishing staff. Local news, lockdown on Parliament Hill. CFIA issues recall on ground beef. 3 Ontario businesses fined $450,000. And United Nations report says Canada should repeal MAID for people with non-terminal illness. Well, each segment I like to start with a sage stick. For some of you who haven't heard of a sage clearing, it's a clearing that I use with my sage stick. Here it is. I grow the sage in my garden, and I clear out all negative energies, leaving each segment with positive energy. To all low energy entities, you are sent back to your perfect place. Only divine love and divine light is allowed here, and so it is. Now on to the video. Rainwater barrels.
Collection has become a common practice these days. A rain barrel setup has been near the top of my project list for quite some time, and I'm happy to say that we finally have a system in place and it's working beautifully. In fact, it might be working almost too well, so much so that I'm already thinking of adding more barrels to this setup. And I finished this one just in time for an overnight rain, and I didn't expect to see much when I came out the next morning, so I was completely shocked to find that it was already totally full. And I would guess, based on the rainfall totals for that storm, it was about 1/4 of an inch draining from the 1/2 of our roof that completely filled this barrel, which is incredible. So if you're even thinking about adding a rain barrel to collect water for your garden or whatever, I highly recommend it. I'm going to show you how I installed this diverter kit, and please stick around for the whole video because I'll also talk about winterizing the rain barrel for cold climates and show you another setup that I'm working on. If you'd like to skip around in the video, I've provided some timestamp links in the description and in the top of the comment section below. Buying a brand new rain barrel this size can be a bit costly. It can also be a challenge to find a used one, but it's definitely worth the effort. I posted on the Nextdoor app that I was looking for rain barrels, and a very nice lady offered to give me her old one for free. It already had a spigot installed, but no lid. I just purchased a trash can lid that would fit and set bricks on top to keep it in place. I built a wooden platform to elevate the barrel off the ground and allow gravity to pull water through a garden hose. I've already tested this out and it works great. I won't be giving instructions on how to build this particular platform because there are so many designs to be found online. I chose this one because it looked simple and strong enough to hold a lot of weight. It's built with treated lumber and galvanized deck screws, and it cost about $20 to make. So I picked up this diverter kit at the home improvement store. It was the only one they had available, and I have to say, it's a great choice. I'm not being paid to say that. This kit has everything you need, including the hole saw bits for the drill, which I really appreciate. It has a downspout water catcher, a flexible inflow-outflow hose, a drain plug, a winter cap, and a spigot, which I won't need for this installation, but I can save that for another barrel in the future. It's very important to set up the diverter in the right place, otherwise it won't work properly. It needs to come out of the downspout slightly above where it enters the barrel, but also a few inches below the top of the barrel. Once the barrel is full, the water needs to be able to flow out from the diverter and continue through the downspout. We need the largest hole saw bit for cutting a hole in the downspout. After that's done, you can run a screwdriver around the edges of the hole to clean off any metal shavings. Then the diverter goes into the hole and gets secured in place with the screws provided. Of course, I looked at the instructions more thoroughly after I had already installed this, but it's not a big deal here. We have a standard 3" by 4" downspout, for which they recommend installing it on the narrow side so it fits tightly in one half of the downspout. Obviously, it still works fine this way, but if you have a smaller 2" by 3" downspout, you would have to install it on the wide side like this because it wouldn't fit the other way. Next, I figured out where the hose should connect to the barrel according to the requirements I mentioned earlier. I used the medium-sized bit for this hole, cleaned off the plastic shavings, and inserted the hose grommet by folding it into the hole. This kit also comes with a drain plug, so I installed that below the spigot. This one needs the smallest hole saw bit. Once again, I folded the grommet into the hole and screwed in the drain plug. I used channel lock pliers to carefully tighten it all the way. To finish the installation, we just need to connect the hose. I had to use some slightly soapy water to get the ends of the hose into the downspout in the barrel. And that's it, we're done. So now we have a rain barrel that's going to save us lots of money over the years and give our plants the kind of water that they really like and deserve. You may have noticed, however, that this barrel is collecting water at the north end of the house where the gutters empty out, which is on the opposite side of the property from our garden. And that's why I'm working on another setup to collect water from the sump pump outflow pipe, which comes out right next to the garden. So I've already built an identical platform for whenever I find a barrel, and I'd like to have this set up so that I can switch between having the water come into this or out the way it normally does. And that will also make it really easy to keep water from going into the barrel or series of barrels over the winter. It's very important that a rain barrel doesn't have any water in it when it gets below freezing for long periods because the expanding ice is likely to crack the barrel. I can empty the barrel with the drain plug and store it in a garage or a garden shed. So I saw that we do also have a possible freeze coming in the forecast, but I'm not too worried about that because it's only going to be for an hour or two, not nearly enough to freeze all of the water in this barrel. I will be sure to at least drain it below the inflow-outflow hose because since it's a smaller area, that could freeze more quickly than the rest, and I don't want to do any damage to that. So I'll find a use for a little bit of the water, throw it in the compost or something like that. So thanks for watching. Be sure to hit the like button.
And now on to international news. ICC. Chief prosecutor accused of punishing staff who leaked sexual misconduct claims. Reuters, April 4, 2025. Divina Vita, day 4th, year 0035. Karim Khan has denied the allegation and plans to cooperate with the investigation, his lawyers say. UN investigators have expanded their inquiry into alleged sexual misconduct by International Criminal Court (ICC) Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan to include allegations of reprisals against staff. Reuters has reported Khan has firmly denied all allegations. Sources cited by the outlet claim that Khan, who is being investigated for alleged sexual harassment of a female subordinate, demoted at least 4 staff members after they reported or expressed concerns about the incident. The investigation, led by the UN's Office of Internal Oversight Services, OIOS, is reportedly examining the claims. Khan's legal representatives have rejected all allegations, stating he looks forward to cooperating fully and transparently with the external investigation and insisting that he has not engaged in sexual misconduct of any kind, and nor, to be clear, has he engaged in any retaliatory behavior as alleged. The ICC has confirmed the initiation of an external investigation into Khan's alleged misconduct. Despite the ongoing inquiry, Khan, the court's chief prosecutor since 2021, has continued to oversee investigations, including those related to the Israel-Gaza conflict. REAORE, U.S. sanctions ICC's top prosecutor. In February, he was sanctioned by the U.S. after the ICC issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant over alleged war crimes in Gaza. Khan's assets in the U.S. have been frozen and he is banned from traveling to the country. Khan has characterized the allegations as part of a misinformation campaign against his office, which he says he has been the target of a wide range of attacks and threats. The ICC has the authority to prosecute individuals for war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide, and the crime of aggression, committed either within its 125 member states or by their nationals. However, major powers such as the US, Russia, and China are not parties to the court and do not recognize its decisions. My personal thoughts. Should there be a full forensic audit on the affairs of the ICC? Now on to local news. Lockdown on Parliament Hill Saturday. Parliament Protective Services on scene. Check news. Written by Liz Brown in the Canadian Press. April the 5th, 2025. Divina Vita, Day 5, Year 0035. A lockdown remains in place on Parliament Hill as Parliamentary Protective Services, PPS, and Ottawa Police, OPS, deal with a barricaded man. On Saturday, the service locked down the East Block of Parliament Hill, which houses parliamentary offices, and advises those inside to seek shelter in the nearest room, close and lock all doors, and hide. Those not in the immediate area were warned to steer clear just before 12 p.m. Ottawa police say an incident unfolding involving a man who barricaded himself in the East Block area of Parliament Hill. At 1 p.m., Ottawa police advised the public to avoid the area around Parliament Hill due to an ongoing police operation. Parliamentary Protective Services were also on scene. There is an ongoing police operation on Parliament Hill at the moment. Please avoid the area. There is no further information, updates to follow. Ottawa police said there were no known injuries to date and that the police would continue to deal with the ongoing incident. The public was asked to avoid the area and roads remain closed on Wellington Street from Bank Street to Sussex Drive. Police brought in a robot to deal with the situation, and a large police truck was ushered through the security roadblock. A government web page said East Block houses the offices of senators and their staff, but Parliament Hill is mostly quiet this month due to the federal election, which means Parliament is dissolved. The government web page says the building once held the offices of Sir John A. Macdonald and Sir George Etienne Cartier, and that it still contains faithful recreations of the offices of its famous occupants from the 19th century. At 5:36 p.m. on Saturday, Public Safety Canada issued an online message stating Public Safety Canada is aware of the situation unfolding on Parliament Hill. Ottawa Police Services and the Parliamentary Protective Services are on the scene. Police have asked everyone to avoid Parliament Hill until further notice. Now on to the video. Personal thoughts. Why would a man barricade himself at the Parliament building? CFIA issues recall on ground beef. In London, Ontario, CTV News, written by Bailey Shakiavier, published April 5th, 2025. Divina Vita, day 4 year 0035. The Canada Food Inspection Agency has issued a recall on beef sold at a London grocer. According to a release from the CFIA, ground beef from Aladdin's Food, 611 Wonderland Road, London, Ontario, with a best before date of February 28, 2025, packaged on February 24, 2025, may be contaminated with E. coli 0103. The CFIA cautions that consumers should not eat, sell, serve, or distribute the food. If you have the recalled product, you should either throw it away or return it to the location you purchased it from. If you think that recall food has made you sick, you should speak to your healthcare provider. It is worth noting that the food contaminated with E. coli 0103 may not appear to be spoiled, but still may make you sick. Symptoms include nausea, vomiting, mild to severe stomach cramps, and watery or bloody diarrhea. Severe cases may lead to seizures or stroke or permanent kidney disease. My personal thoughts? I'm not a meat eater myself, but I sure would definitely start buying beef from the local farmers. What do you think? 3 Ontario businesses fined $450,000 for hiring illegal workers. Global News, written by Prisha Dev, April 4, 2025, Divina Vita, day 4, 0035. 3 Ontario businesses have been hit with hefty fines after a joint investigation revealed they were employing hundreds of foreign nationals without proper authorization. The Canada Border Services Agency, CBSA, said Friday that CDA Landscape Services, located in Ajax, Ontario, was fined $400,000 after employing 20 unauthorized workers. 2 other businesses, including TDA Landscape Services and SDA Services, were each fined $25,000 for employing 2 unauthorized workers. The 3 businesses pleaded guilty to various charges on February 28th. The joint CBSA and OPP investigation began in 2019 when a foreign national was arrested for impaired driving. This led authorities to uncover a network of over 700 unauthorized workers across southern and eastern Ontario. Some individuals were also found to be inadmissible to Canada and were removed from the country. The charges and the sentencing reflect a thorough investigation and our commitment to maintaining the integrity of Canada's immigration system, says Aaron McCory, Vice President of the CBSA's Intelligence and Enforcement Branch, in a news release. The CBSA reported that it has removed 16,470 foreign nationals for immigration violations since last year. I'll have to repeat that. The CBSA reported that it has removed 16,470 foreign nationals for immigration violations since last year. Wow, that's a lot of people. My personal thoughts. Under natural law in the Kingdom of Canada, illegal immigrants are to be sent back to their homeland. And so it is. United Nations report says Canada should repeal MAID for people with non-terminal illness. CTV News written by Arjavi Raj, April 6, 2025. Divina Vita, Day 60035. A recent report by the United Nations Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities has asked Ottawa to repeal medical assistance in dying MAID for anyone without a terminal illness, also known as Track 2 in Canada's MAID program. Presented last month at a meeting of the committee, the report recommends Canada create a federal MAID watchdog to look into complaints and investigate the causes that led to people with disabilities applying for assisted death in the first place. MAID is offered as a state-sanctioned relief for people who were failed by the government due to improper access to health care or housing, the report says. Poverty, lack of access to employment and services for people with disabilities, and the lack of a support system were also cited as factors. The UN committee wrote it is extremely concerned by Ottawa's broadening of Canada's MAID laws in 2021 to offer medically assisted death to people who have permanent but non-terminal physical illnesses. MAID Track 2 has expanded rapidly since legalization, but only represented 4% of the 15,323 people who chose MAID Track 1 and 2 combined in 2023, according to Health Canada data. Charlotte Ann Malashewski, president of the Canadian Human Rights Commission, told the committee that too many Canadians with disabilities lacked access to supports and services like healthcare, medication, and equipment. Some persons with disabilities were turning to medical assistance in dying because they felt they had no other options, which was terrifying. A summary of her comments at the meeting reads, "The Commission remained concerned about Canada's lack of progress in implementing the recommendations from the international human rights system, including from the committee," it says. Canada needed a strong framework for implementation and monitoring to drive meaningful and coordinated progress and to meet its obligations. We offer them support. We don't offer them death. Isabel Grant, a criminal law professor at the University of British Columbia, says Track 2 is premised on the idea that death is preferable for people with disabilities. On behalf of the Feminist Alliance on International Action, Grant co-authored a submission to the Geneva hearings about repealing MAID Track 2, published on March 27th. Somebody else who wants to die, we offer them suicide prevention. We offer them supports, Grant told CTV News on Friday. We don't offer them death. It's a choice people with disabilities make often due to facing social and economic inequalities and Canadian government's failure to provide support, according to Grant. People with disabilities who are suffering are being offered death as opposed to what they need to alleviate their suffering. she said. The people who are reporting to the federal government are the people who are giving the maid death, Grant said. They just check a bunch of boxes on the form and they send that off to the federal government. There's no independent national oversight going on, and there's no oversight in any province prior to death. It's always after the maid death has happened. The submission made to the Geneva hearing says Maid Track 2 threatens the rights outlined in the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities by disproportionately endangered women with disabilities. The committee issued recommendations that included repealing Track 2 of Maid, rejecting proposals of offering Maid to mature minors under the age of 18, investing in federal, provincial, and territorial measures to address the social determinants of health and establishing a resourced federal independent oversight for maid monitoring. According to Grant, more than half the recipients of Track 2 are women with disabilities. I think the social inequality that women face, the social inequality that disabled women face, and then the social inequality that elderly disabled women face is so significant in Canada that I think all of those factors feed into them feeling there's no good option to alleviate their suffering, whether that's from a history of violence, a history of inadequate healthcare access, a history of inadequate housing or supports, feeling very socially isolated. Legal framework designed with safeguards, Health Canada. The UN committee also asked the federal government to end the proposed expansion of MAID for patients with mental disorders, but no physical illness, and to ban any federal support for any requests in advance. Quebec announced last October that people with dementia or Alzheimer's disease could get approvals before their mental capacity declines. Health Canada says they have no intention of repealing the Track 2 of MAID and will continue to stand with the system created by them. A spokesman for Health Canada told CTV News in a statement. The legal framework for MAID, including Track 2, has been designed with safeguards to affirm and protect the inherent and equal value of every person's life, the statement reads. Enhanced safeguards are in place for individuals who request MAID under Track 2 to provide additional protection. These include that the person must be informed of available and appropriate means to relieve their suffering, including counseling services, mental health and disability support services, community services, and palliative care, and must be offered consultations with professionals who provide those services. The health agency said the Government of Canada will complete the review of the final concluding observations and recommendations and consider its response to the UN Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Track 2 MAID was first established as a result of a court case brought by two Canadians with disabilities who fought the right to access MAID without being excluded based on their prognosis. Dr. James Downer, a physician in the Division of Palliative Care at the University of Ottawa, points out, Canadians are not eligible for MAID on the basis of disability alone. They must meet all the eligibility criteria, which most Canadians with disabilities do not, that Downer says. Track 2 MAID remains an extremely rare event in Canada, whereas 27% of Canadians identify as having a disability. He emphasizes that the reversal of MAID laws would lead to creating another injustice without addressing the real issues. According to Donar, the impact of policies on people with disabilities and those experiencing structural vulnerabilities is the part that need to be focused on. However, he did agree with some of the recommendations made by the UN Committee about finding ways to support Canada's disability community by focusing on key drivers of structural vulnerability and increasing support. If the argument is that the government should be investing and should follow through on the disability benefit and make sure it's indexed properly, at least to make sure that we are not in a situation of legislative poverty for people with disabilities, that's a great idea, he said. We should do that, but not because of MAID. We should do it because that's the right to do for people in general that will lead to better health outcomes for them. More stable food, stable housing, and further support for national pharmacare, for preventive medications, dental care, etc. Those are all important things to do. My personal thoughts. Is MAID under natural law in the Kingdom of Canada illegal? The political officials need to roll out medbeds quick, fast, and in a hurry. And here is a video on medbeds.
What if the future of healthcare was not in pills or surgeries, but in the advanced technology of the Galactic Federation's medbeds? A concept that seems to be plucked straight out of a sci-fi novel, medbeds represent a leap into the future of health and wellness. The Galactic Federation's medbeds, as the name suggests, are not your average hospital beds. They are a revolutionary concept in healthcare technology, harnessing advanced healing methods that sound more like science fiction than reality. These medbeds utilize a combination of light and sound waves, along with other undisclosed technologies, to scan and diagnose the human body down to the cellular level. Once the medbed has identified any issues, it can then treat the patient with pinpoint accuracy, addressing the root cause of the illness or injury, rather than just treating the symptoms. The medbeds are not just about healing physical ailments. They can also address mental health issues, from anxiety and depression to more severe conditions. By using advanced brain mapping and other techniques, the medbeds can identify and treat these conditions, offering a holistic approach to health. But how does it work, you might ask? Well, the medbeds operate by creating a resonance field that aligns with the body's natural healing abilities. This resonance field can then stimulate and accelerate the body's healing process, allowing for a faster and more efficient recovery. The Galactic Federation's medbeds represent a new frontier in healthcare. They offer a non-invasive, holistic approach to health and wellness that could revolutionize the way we approach medicine. With their advanced technology and capabilities, medbeds could potentially eliminate the need for invasive surgeries and harmful medications, paving the way for a healthier and more holistic future. In summary, the Galactic
Roll out those medbeds. It's well needed today. I am Cindy Lorraine Grais of CLG View Point, and I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for you being here today with me. If you feel compelled to, please share this forum. Here are the top 15 Canadian billionaires on Forbes 2025 list. Have a truly wonderful day and see you on Divina Vita Divine Life Day 80035. That is Tuesday, April the 8th, 2025.